This is November 1st, day 32 of Occupy Los Angeles, and you're watching Inside Out News.
We decide who sits on the CSU Board of Trustees. If we decide who's on the CSU Board of Trustees, then we decide the tuition. We decide how the system operates. We decide what happens, what is taught, what is built. So, the CSU Board of Trustees, again, is appointed by elected officials. So if we vote and we put our own elected officials into position, then those elected officials will then decide who sits on the CSU Board of Trustees. So in that way, we need to take the decision-making power, right? We believe we live in a democracy, and if that is the case, then our vote is the power, right? I think one of the interesting little quote is, we didn't know where power lies, right? Power is in the streets for us to go and take. We need to be taking the power with our votes, with our voices, by being out here and claiming space. And I think that's what this is all about.
Right behind me is the water fountain. The city came by today to board it up. It looks like it's an attempt to maintain some of the property here and prevent it from being damaged by the occupiers. In response to the boarding up of the fountain, many of the occupiers here have taken to writing messages on the wooden panels. As you can see behind me, it says "Power to the People." There are various slogans all around the water fountain now on the wooden paneling. Yesterday, I went over to Occupy CSUN, which is at Cal State Northridge, where a group of students and teachers have organized in their own occupation movement on campus. They gave speeches and then after that marched over to a street corner near the university, where on one side is the Citibank and on another is Wells Fargo. The occupiers were nonviolent. They made no attempt to rush into the banks or to frighten anyone in the bank. They just stood on the corner and held their signs to get their message out to the pedestrians and drivers passing through the intersection. In the Wells Fargo bank, there were 3 police officers, one standing outside of the bank and 2 inside of the bank. I had my camera up against one of the windows and I could see one of the police officers in there, and he had those plastic pull ties that have been used commonly to do mass arrests. He had several on his belt loop in case that he may need to arrest people, but there was no chance of that happening. The protesters were very, very well behaved, and they just looking to get their message out.
I'm here because my family are dying because they don't have health care. I'm sick of watching people die because they don't have enough money to afford to live. And I feel like that's a fundamental, inherent part of capitalism, and we can't just reform it. We need revolution.
Is this your first time coming out to this Occupy CSUN?
This is my first time at an Occupy CSUN event, yes.
Wave to Mike Lee right now.
Have you been involved in any activist work prior?
Yes. I've been involved in activism for probably half my life.
All right, I'm just gonna read
And what do you feel about the tuition hike that they're gonna do, like a 12% tuition hike in the Cal States or the state system?
I feel that is capitalism's reaction to the failing economy, and I think that tuition hikes and hospitals closing and people getting kicked out of their homes is all a result of capitalism's economy failing in this country, and then the reaction becomes fascist, because when capitalism fails and starts attacking public services in a country, that is fascism.
Cut down on pay, but the students have seen a 21% increase just in the last year, and California's tuition costs are going up the fastest in the nation of all the states. Nationwide, student debt is over $1 trillion, and there's 320,000 ex-students, recent students who have defaulted because they can't pay back the loan. In the meantime, the banks are raking it in. So, for example, Bank of America has a subsidiary, Merrill Lynch, which it bought a while back. Merrill Lynch has these toxic assets, these derivatives they're called, and so Merrill Lynch is transferring those accounts to Bank of America because they're FDIC insured. So in other words, the taxpayers are going to bail out Bank of America yet again for billions of dollars for these toxic investments which the banks created in the first place. Meanwhile, students can't even make ends meet. And the fundamental problem is capitalism. It's a system, it's an evil system, it's a system which rewards the worst aspects of human nature, rewards aggression, greed, and wars for oil. We need a better system a system that rewards the best aspects of human nature, sharing, helping the planet, and creating a just system.
Why do you think California, in particular, of all of the states in the United States, is having the highest increase in public education costs?
Well, it's partly because they have among the lowest costs to begin with. So they're catching up they're sort of joining the rat race of the other states to put more burden on the students, on the poor, on the working class.
And so, from what I'm hearing, your ultimate solution is that you need to get rid of capitalism. Is that correct?
That's correct, yes.
And what would you put in its place?
Socialism.
Socialism. Just any particular branch of socialism?
Well, for
or any
example, I think it should come in pieces. So we ought to have free medical care, socialized medicine. It ought to be like other countries where if you get sick, you don't have to fill out any insurance forms. You don't have to sell your house or become homeless to pay your debts. It's free. It's a guaranteed right of citizenship. We ought to have another example is free education. That's socialism. They have that in Norway, Finland, and Sweden. It's absolutely free, and in fact, they even pay a stipend to students to help them with their living expenses. So we ought to have that here. We're richer than those countries. We can afford it, but instead we give all our money to the billionaires.
This weekend here at Occupy LA is looking to be very eventful. The organizers are planning a 2-day teach-in, Saturday and Sunday, where they will have notable speakers come to talk about the economy and various other things that are related to the occupation movement. One of the notable speakers that will be here on Saturday is Robert Reich. He was in the Clinton administration and teaches over at UC Berkeley. So he'll be here on Saturday. The occupation is also planning a march. It is November 5th is Close Your Bank Account Day, so they will be going to a few of the local branches in downtown LA, and occupiers are planning to close their bank accounts and move them into credit unions. So we'll see what happens on that day in that regard. When some protesters tried to do that on Wall Street, they were arrested. So we'll see if their attempts are fruitful, if they're able to close their accounts, or if arrests will occur. We will be here this weekend to cover those events, and we will have a report out for you then. But for tonight, there isn't too much planned. There's a General Assembly that's going on, and the rest of the week looks like just preparation for the weekend. But we will be here throughout the week, and there will be another report in not tomorrow, but the following day. So we look forward to bringing that to you and any other news that happens here at Occupy Los Angeles. This is Margot Paez signing off for Inside Out News. Good night.